here, right now, right 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 here, right now.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have on the line, as we do every week, we have Mr. Ian Jacklin. Ian, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. That's Anthony, right?
No, this is Gypsy. This is the Standby Gypsy, sir.
Right on, Gypsy. Good to hear your voice again.
Likewise, likewise. Okay, I'll let you guys go at it.
Now, are you able to see us both? Because I can see him and he can't see me, but are we good?
You guys are good. We don't have video on Mr. Loop, sir. It did prompt me saying that he did not have the latest version of Skype, unfortunately. But if Mr. Loop, can you talk, Mr. Loop?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
I actually, I'm on my MacBook Air, so I don't know. I tried to download it, the newest version, but for some odd reason I couldn't get it. I have my PC nearby, so maybe I can switch over to that. I mean, whatever is more convenient.
Well, let's just stick with this. Maybe I'm sure Ian will have you back on the show, and we'll have it updated. But right now, we do have a great still picture of you. Your audio's clear. We got Ian. I say let's go.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, great. Yes, sorry that the instructions, I should stress on that one. People, whenever I get you come on my show, if I don't remind you, to make sure you update your Skype. And we got to figure something else out. That Skype has been, whoa. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's so exciting to have you here, man, because I don't know if you said once to me recently, you said that I'm an inspiration to you. And I was like, what? No. You, man, you. I got your book. This was one of the first books I ever read when I was getting into this whole alternative cancer thing. And it really just helped lay down the groundwork for what I do now. It was the same thing Dr. Bernardo was teaching me from my film iCure Cancer, which was from Brian Scott Paskin, professor, and that was via Otto Warburg. So, I mean, I think we're still in the same school of thought as far as health and longevity goes, right?
100%. And I look at you as a fellow health warrior, so I'm grateful to be on this call today. And like I said, I really admire your work because it's a lonely road to walk sometimes, especially when you're getting out there and you're going against the grain, the masses. I mean, people are programmed to think and do in a certain way. So just to try and empower them to live healthier lives is just, I mean, it's always been my mission. And really, I have a very passionate heart. I'm very enthusiastic about that. And I can tell we're of the same blood. So again, grateful to be here today.
Yeah, right on. Who would have known? The name of the book, it's sorry, I just got into my hotel. I came from a healing from this Christ-like lady, like one of the like John of God type people that can know how to work the light energy. And so then I got a car and drove through the streets of Tijuana, and I get up to my hotel room and the door's locked, the key's not working. I go down and they reprogram it. I get back up, it's still not working. I go back. So anyway, here I am. I don't have any notes or anything, but I thought, you know what? You and I are pretty much on the same page, so we can just hang out tonight, relax, no pressure, and have some cool conversation. So the name of the book was that I first read that you wrote? Or?
Yeah, it's Cracking the Cancer Code. I wrote it in 2006. Kind of a little bit of background about myself. I graduated from chiropractic school in 2004. And a lot of people don't know this, but chiropractors are actually trained as primary care physicians. And, I remember when I was young distinctly, my grandma and grandpa were on all this medication. And I was like, I can't say I was totally wise at 16, 17 years old, but I think I was wise enough to know that wasn't the way it should be. And so that's really when I started to question a lot of health and what I was programmed to believe. And then once I had a chiropractor come into our health occupations class when I was a senior, and he started talking about, homeostasis, autoregulation, i.e. your body is programmed to heal itself. He used the cut as an example. You cut yourself, it automatically heals. You don't got to consciously think about it. And a lot of just what he said resonated with me. And I'm like, to be involved in a drugless, surgeryless profession to where you can actually help people recover their health and reverse chronic disease is pretty darn cool, So I just decided to get into that. And of course, I developed and studied extra in nutrition, biochemistry, and really all the ways on how to optimize your immune system and such, because we all need certain things to thrive and survive. And I just became really, really inspired about 2004. That's when I started working on Cracking the Cancer Code. And I finished it in 2006, got it published. And it was kind of cool because I ended up getting a pairing with The Secret, the book that dropped on Amazon. It really allowed my book to take off and get it into maybe similar people's hands that, were all about, they knew that the mind was involved in healing as well. So, but I'm really glad it got into your hands again, because I know that it's helped inspire you. And obviously, we're part of the same mission, and we have the same goals. We want to empower people. We want to save lives.
Right. Cracking the Cancer Code. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Now, we haven't actually met, though, have we? Physically.
No, it's kind of funny how the internet works. No, but
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, I'm going to be in Orange County. Is that where you're at?
Los Angeles, close enough.
Okay, I'm going to be there speaking in, I think it's is it early or mid-January, so maybe we can connect when I'm out there.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll throw the big camera on you, too, to get a quick little thing for my new film. And you were asking about it, so I might as well tell you, and I'm sure there's a few people out there that may not know it. I made the iCure cancer film. I think that came out in 2006. And then I've been shooting part 2 ever since. It's up in the air what to call it. I want to call it baby killers, because to me that's what the oncologists are doing. They're murdering our children with their chemo, radiation, and surgery, because we know it doesn't work. 3% of the time will it work for tumor-type cancers. We know this now. Oncologists, unfortunately, don't know it. So I'm making part 2 to express that to people, to let them understand that when you take your child in for, with the exception of some of the leukemias, they do have an up to 40% success rate with chemo. I'll give it that. That means 60 of the 100 bullets are still going to hit your kid.
Exactly.
So that's why not as many, not too many people make it out of that. But I know so many people, obviously more adults, because children are locked into our system, and you go to jail if you don't let them give your child chemotherapy. So, which would have probably happened to me for murder. But yeah, so I'm making this film, man, and it's coming along great. I'm also, and then out of the blue comes this cannabis hemp oil. Like, oh my God, I thought we were. There's no silver bullet, as everybody knows, and there still isn't, because sometimes it's just your time to go, or you like being sick and you like the attention you get and you don't follow instructions. So there's a few ways that you can still die of cancer, but the treatment shouldn't be one of them. And what, as you figured out and I've figured out and I've seen with my own eyes hundreds of times, people get on an alkaline diet, get your pH level up above 7.2, 7.4, about there. Or if you happen to have one of those weird cancers where you have too high of a pH, eat the more acidic foods to bring it down. You can talk to my friend Dr. Gonzalez about that in New York City. So there's many ways of treating this cancer, and so the cannabis hemp oil came along. I thought, well, I got to throw this in the mix. So that's going to be a big part of the film as well, because it's ridiculous. It's got, Rick Simpson's a friend of mine, the guy from that Run from the Cure, and Ronnie Smith, who's an old school guy, and I've talked to a number of old school guys, and they've literally, between my friends, through one connection, like one friend, not like my friend of a friend of a friend, no, through one, I literally know over 10,000 people that have been cured of cancer from the cannabis hemp oil. If you put all the numbers together. That's just what I'm going with. I'm going with what I see and what works. I knew if I was out there and had cancer and was too busy with my life, my family, and my job, and didn't know this, I would want somebody to get on the internet and say this stuff, because I don't have any wife or kids yet, so I got some time on my hands, and so that's kind of what I've been doing, and it's coming along great. I haven't got any major investments as usual, so it's wherever I can drive to from where I live in Los Angeles, basically. And but thanks to I want to thank my fans out there for all your donations and buying the DVD for iCure Cancer, which you can do if you want to go to iCureCancer.com. You can get a DVD. It goes right back into whatever I'm doing. This is my life, folks. So anyway, so to update you, bro, part 1 went great. It's kind of like a cult hit on the internet, and part 2 will be much. Yeah.
I mean, it's a great, empowering movie. That's why I say you're a true health warrior. The message is getting out. People are starting to become more conscious nowadays. And I think that, we had a brief conversation on Facebook about this, but, when you start to learn how you're being manipulated throughout this entire years, I felt like I was asleep for 20-something years of my life when I started to realize and wake up that, wait a minute, you mean the FDA is not really protecting my best interest? You mean we don't really need to be on all these meds? You mean like the AMA functions more like a cartel and the Gestapo than anything else? I mean, you start to really question a lot after that. And it really drew me into, I would say, more of like, how are people persuaded? How are people manipulated? What is the science of propaganda? Because when you understand the science of propaganda, you can spot it on the news, the radio, the TV, when somebody says it, and you don't have to buy into that. And if you understand the principles there, you can use that to help ethically influence people to actually do something that will save their life, that will save their children's life, or to just better humanity. You know what I mean? Like there's certain predictable, well, I would call them patterns that people live by, and people are predictable to a certain extent. There's a guy, his name is Edward Bernays. He wrote a book called Propaganda, Sigmund Freud's cousin, and he literally tells, I mean, he was using it, of course, to manipulate the masses, but the bottom line is you got to understand how you're being programmed so you can slowly come out of that, or just, like probably you and I did, we hit a brick wall, and it was a strong emotional sudden impact where it was like I had to drop that old paradigm that I bought into for my whole life cold turkey, and then I had to really question. I mean, I was probably up 3 weeks straight devouring information because I just felt like, where the hell was I the last 20-something years of my life? And then as I started to get in practice and see cancer reversed numerous times, I mean, it blows your mind that this information is not to the masses. But you realize why, and if you understand the history of the business of disease, like I talk about in chapter 2 of my book, it makes a lot of sense. You got to know the history before you can actually, before it really clicks and you start to say, oh, okay, here are the connections, here's where the money goes, and here's why these, quote, alternative therapies are not the mainstream.
Right. And hey, let's go through that chapter right now, man. I know it, but my people want to know it. You want to give us some basic history of why we are so screwed up here today?
Sure. It's interesting, and so without getting too deep into the 1%, the elite, who I'm talking about, obviously, there's this controlling hand over society, and they've been in control for a long time. And it's so funny because when people talk about the richest men in the world, they never mention these certain names like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. Yet they were so integral in shaping society, how society is right now, and they literally stack the chips in their favor. And as I talk about this, like what I'm going to go into about the history of medicine, the business of disease, I'm all for capitalism, by the way, because I'm an entrepreneur, but I believe in conscious capitalism, helping people, delivering strong value into their lives, and you're compensated upon the value that you bring somebody, not because you're manipulating them into this toxic sludge is good for you crap, what's went on in big food and big pharma. So there's a huge difference there. But if you understand a little bit of the history, you go back to 1910, you have a guy, his name was Abraham Flexner, and he was commissioned by John D. Rockefeller to go around and evaluate all the medical schools in the country at that time. Now, Rockefeller, of course, you might remember his name because he was a Standard Oil tycoon, which was broken up from monopoly in the turn of the century. But he was also looking for ways to diversify his empire, because the only thing that people like that in power want is more power. So he got into, he literally partnered with his competitors, J.P. Morgan and Andrew Carnegie, and they decided to go into this pharmaceutical interest, and everyone that wasn't as high as they were basically made stockholders. And this snake oil, these witches brews, this was like new up and coming stuff. Didn't have any research behind it, because at that time you had, quote, alternative medicine practitioners using nutrition, homeopathy, chiropractic, magnetic therapy, all these other modalities and treatments that are now considered alternative were the mainstream before. So even all the medical doctors were using them. So, going back to Abraham Flexner, he went around and evaluated all the medical schools in the country. Mind you, he was employed by Rockefeller, and he came back with this infamous Flexner report. And basically what he found is that there were certain amounts of institutions that were using these alternative therapies, or what was then mainstream, and they wanted to have their pharmaceuticals in all these institutions, because one, there were petrochemicals in all the pharmaceuticals, which was just another way to get the oil in other places. So they wanted to diversify their empire in a sense. So what they did after they did this whole evaluation is they closed down roughly, I believe it was about 60 to 70% of the medical schools at that time. 60 to 70% that didn't follow this new guideline of these, quote, pharmaceutical drugs or these, wonder pills. And that's really how it started. You basically blacklisted all of those medical doctors and practitioners, put them in jail, created these fear and propaganda campaigns to literally shape the news how they wanted it. Because at that time, of course, they still owned the media. They knew how to manipulate the public, and that's just what they did. So that's kind of in a nutshell what happened with the history. You had the Flexner Report that came out, and Congress, of course, swallowed it hook, line, and sinker because they're lobbied by these industries. And you had that whole machine that took place, the medical cartel, the AMA monopoly that came to be. So, just a lot of history there that people need to understand about these organizations. It wasn't all unicorns and altruism. You know what I mean? Like it was very. I mean, for lack of a better word, it was a conspiracy. It wasn't a theory. These people wanted to dominate other industries, so they took over. And now you've got these companies that train the medical doctors, and because they train the medical doctors, they control what information gets pushed to the public. And that's kind of how, after decades and decades and decades and decades, you indoctrinate / shape opinions of the masses through these PR campaigns and everything else. And even chiropractic, probably, I think it was in the 80s, there was a case called the Wilt case. It was a federal case force where the American Medical Association was found guilty of conspiring to contain and eliminate the chiropractic profession. Like, this was a federal court case. So that just gives you an idea of the history of medicine and why these groups are not your friend. I think the average medical doctor, and I'm sure you would agree, Ian, they get into medicine because they truly want to help people. You know what I mean? They start off and they really want to help people, but once all the interest and the private money comes into play, they're labs at these pharmaceutical companies in school, and they're literally trained by them, their perception is a little bit jaded as they come out, and they only believe what they're taught in school, and also what, quote, leading researchers teach them anyway. So they're really not taught to reason as you would think. So it's very disappointing. But as we mentioned before, I think more and more people are now coming to this, the knowledge. Hey, wait a minute, something's not right. We have one of the sickest nations in the world. How is that when we have the best trained medical specialist? You know what I mean?
I know. Here, myself and a number of friends on Facebook and stuff, we're basically conducting our own studies. We somebody's taking the cannabis sample wherever they're at, and they're jotting down what's happening so they can help others. We just found out about CBD oil. The THC oil we knew about, that was curing cancer, Crohn's, AIDS, many things. And again, I want to throw out, take it easy on the cure word, because it actually, I don't know if it's actually cured Crohn's, but I know people that couldn't leave the house before now do, work out, do yoga, have wonderful lives. As far as, macular degeneration, I don't want to say for sure, but there's definitely some eye things that the cannabis is good for. And the cancer, it's working. I'm sorry, folks, it's just working. It's like, I think one of my friend's daughter's leukemia kind of disappeared after 3 days on the oil. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot about the cannabis oil. I personally don't have any experience using that, or like even know somebody in my close circle that's used that, but I know the research is there, and especially with all these cases coming out of the woodwork, it just makes sense from a, I would say, a physiological perspective too, once you dissect the biochemistry, how it works and everything. So no, it's showing great promise. I've always been under the impression, there are certain environmental toxins, emotional toxins, physical toxins that get into us that we need to get rid of, obviously, through a good diet and detaching from environmental stress and having just a good environment free from emotional stress as well. But there are other, I would say, nutritional power boosters, like vitamin D, probiotics, just some basic things of life that we've kind of forgotten about in our type A American society that really go a long way. So cancer is while it is complex, I think sometimes we actually forget about how simple the solution just might actually be. Like how many of us detach and get outside and really focus on deep belly breathing to oxygenate our bodies to help create that alkaline environment? How many of us eat living foods from the ground all day? How many of us drink really clean water? Sometimes it's really the basic things that can dramatically boost your quality of life. And I know you and I have talked just a little bit about fasting, and my God, it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And tumors have to grow too. Cancer needs food, and if you don't feed it, it's not going to grow. And there's been a lot of research. Two guys in particular, one is Herbert Shelton, and the other one is Paul Bragg. They wrote great books on the power of fasting. And so I mean, strongly recommend, if you haven't incorporated that into your regimen, it's just something that will help knock the cancer out. You know what I mean? It's just another added tool that the masses should know about, yet it's been suppressed for a long time. And of course, because the media is owned by the sponsors, it's very difficult to get some airtime. But there's hope. And like you said, even with the cannabis oil, I mean, that's fantastic developments.
Yeah. And just to finish that thought about the CBDs for anybody out there listening, there's an amazing documentary on CNN. So just go to YouTube and Google the CNN. And I always get the guy's name wrong, but you'll probably know it. Dr. Gupta or
Sanjay Gupta.
Sanjay. I'll just have to try and remember Sanjay. I can remember that.
Okay.
But amazing documentary, amazing. It will blow your mind, folks. Watch it. Watch these kids going from having seizures like multiple times a day to zero. And this is CBD oil. It doesn't have the THC in it that gets you high. So it's basically they take, and there's an even newer one out now that's coming. My buddy Brad Mossman has been educating me on this. They can make CBD oil out of industrial hemp plants, which has zero THC, and it's not illegal in America. Well, it's illegal to grow that plant thanks to DuPont and Hearst and all the scumbags that we were talking about earlier that demonize marijuana. So the way I found a loophole, folks, a way around. If you live in a non-legal marijuana state and you care, most of my friends don't. I mean, it's your life. I say it's your sovereign right to have your 2 feet planted on this earth. I don't care what country you're from or whatever. You're a human being. You got God on your side, and He said you have free rights. So do whatever you got to do. But if you have to stick to the legal thing, you can order CBD oil that is made in Europe, grown in Europe, tested, shipped to America, tested, and then it's legal. And so it's crazy expensive. It's even more expensive than THC oil usually. But anyway, it's working amazing stuff for and also if money wasn't an issue, which unfortunately for most of my friends it is, but if it wasn't, I would get both the CBD oil and the high THC oil because they complement each other like no other. And the CBD oil takes the high away from the THC. Some people don't like getting high. So FYI, little sidetrack there, but just so people know. But again, the thing that got that ramble on was that why should we the people be having to call each other and say, yeah, try this much, or try, I mean, it should be done. Instead, they're spending billions, millions every year on more chemo, which we know doesn't work, and we're tired of it. People got to stand up and end it. I haven't figured out how, if it's got to be a revolution or if the light is just going to keep coming to the masses and we're just going to suddenly sneeze and blow them away. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, there's, it's one of those things to where I used to be a lot softer in my approach. And once I got on purpose, I really decided, something, one, chemotherapy and radiation and chopping off organs or body parts, it's just barbaric. It's fucking barbaric. So, you know what I mean? And like, once I started to really connect back with my purpose and my mission in terms of like people need great information, especially children. I mean, the topic of this conversation is cancer, but another issue that fires me up is the psychotropic drugging of the kids. It's just like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, and the side effects are obviously, I mean, it's right in front of their face. And I think that as we evolve as a species, I mean, like this is it's so antiquated, it's ridiculous. And the reason why that it's still pushed out there is because of very clever marketing and propaganda by these groups in power. That's why it's so important to understand how you're being spoon-fed this stuff. Like, I mean, I rarely watch the news. I got to tell you, I don't watch a lot of TV. I mean, I like to go to the movies sometimes, but I know when I watch the television, this is corporate interest and stuff getting pumped down my subconscious. And even like as educated about these things as I am, if you're in that environment all day long, whether it's your friends, your family, the radio, TV, you start to believe some of this bullshit. it wears on you, even if you're firmly grounded. So you got to stay out of that, and you really have to do your own homework and research, and you have to look back to certain scientific principles. Autoregulation, homeostasis, that's fundamental to science. Your body is programmed to heal itself, period. All you need to do is get the junk out. Your body will adapt. I've seen stage 4 cancer reduced or reversed numerous times. It doesn't matter how far along you are. Cancer is not a death sentence, and that's, I think, what people need to understand and know. But you know, if you look at this this pink washing, everything that goes down in this propaganda machine today, they want people to feel like cancer is a death sentence and that you have to go through the system, and then they try to glorify this chopping off of body parts. I mean, it's sick and disgusting. And these people need to be stopped. So you're right. Maybe there needs to be a revolution, because, you know, the time for just pussyfooting around and saying, oh, well, maybe you should do this. No, you should. You really got to do this for the sake of your children, to live a better life. I mean, I try to be very direct now in my communication with people. And, you know, I'll give them the background. I'll give them the history so they know that I'm not just fanatical about this. I'll give them science as well. But, you know, I mean, we're coming to a point where, I mean, something's got to go. We have to, you know, take hold and create this momentum. And I believe that we are. It's just, it needs to happen a lot faster.
The only good thing about me having to be in this time and place to make a movie called Baby Killers, because that's what they're doing, is that maybe that's what's going to be what makes it happen, is the fact that they're killing our children. So obviously, we don't care about adults. We've been letting them do it to us for years. But now people are waking up going, wait. I know somebody that cured their kid with cannabis oil, and you know, you want to give my kid chemo? Oh, what's even worse is 2 or 3 of the stories I'm following, the children have already been cured of the cancer from the cannabis hemp oil, yet they're being forced chemo for another 2 years. Forced that poison for 2 years, even though they're cancer-free. And the one lady, and I'm not going to remember her name, but I want to have her on my show, and CNN's going to do a big show on her too. She basically has her kid cured, and she moved to Colorado so she could get the marijuana legal. And it didn't matter. The hospital actually still said, sorry, you're getting chemo. And they went to court 3 times. They beat him twice. 3rd time they brought in a different judge, and they got him. So they're on the run. They're running from the law right now. I told them, come down to Tijuana, man. I'll hook you up.
You know, it just blows my mind that this is America. Honestly, it really does. I mean, you know, you think about the perceived freedom that we have, but you really realize that there are a few puppet masters in control, and it's because people have been so. I mean, you know, to a certain extent, we obviously have to accept responsibility, because all this stuff has went on under the table, and you know, people have just been so comfortable in their own little lives, and you know, getting their knowledge off the tube. It's just one of those things to where, I mean, it's time to wake up, because I mean, you're right. Children's lives are, I mean, there's nothing.
The suffering. Oh my God, the suffering. Look, this one little girl, man, that I've been following. She's gonna be in my film. I mean, she just had her arm cut off. This girl was totally healthy. She had bone cancer, and the parents took her to a place in Arizona, holistic, got her going, got her pH level up good and high. Yeah. She'd be cancer free now. They would have left her alone, but the cops caught up to him, forced him to do the chemo, radiation surgery, and then of course to the complications to the chemo, which just destroys everything. She lost her arm because of an infection recently. I mean that's really got me upset. So they're going to be hearing from me. But what's going on, man? I can't take it anymore, and I want trials. And here's all you oncologists out there right now, expect trials, and in my lifetime. This is a
criminal act. This is a criminal act. I mean, it really is. I don't know how else to put it. It's barbaric and it's criminal. And you know, I can't recall the exact source that I saw this study, but they did a study with oncologists, and the oncologists, they asked them, how many, you know, if you had cancer, would you take chemo or radiation? And the overwhelming majority of them said no way. You know,
75% or something. I think it was McGill University in Montreal. I don't want to say for sure, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was a very high percentage. I mean, crazy high. You know, it's actually was amazing too, because I've had a couple surgical oncologists have bought my book, and one in particular, he started giving it out in his reception area, which I was actually blown away, because usually, you know, oncologists, much like, you know, some neurosurgeons, they're very set in their ways many times. And I was just blown away that he did that, and he was trying to be more holistic in his approach, which was great. But chemotherapy is it's such a, I mean, besides being unproven and unscientific, it's just so barbaric. I mean, there's no other word for it, and most people will die of the actual treatment than the actual cancer, and it's very sad.
And I always tell my people when they come to me, I said, ask your oncologist, does it get the cancer stem cells? Because that's what kills you, cancer stem cells. Sure, chemo, radiation, surgery, you can take off the mass. You could take lots of cancer cells out. But it doesn't matter. They're not the ones that kill you. It's the cancer stem cells. And not only does radiation not kill them, they make them stronger. I got one guy contact me tonight. God, I believe it. I hope he's listening. I can't tell him, but I would say to myself, I would never get radiation. You don't need it. And the one radiation that little girl did do, actually, and this is why I was so upset, because the little girl in Chicago, is because they found a real guy, like a real Western medicine guy, that was doing cyberknife, and it's a legitimate thing. And he said, I just saved your daughter's arm, because he killed the cancer in the one spot from the cyberknife. Now, I don't know enough about that to recommend to anybody, but hey, point is, he said the doctor, an MD, said, yeah, I just saved your daughter's arm. And then now it's gone a year later, because the other scumbag oncologist, he's lucky I don't remember his name right now, he just kept pumping that chemo into her.
Unreal. I mean, it's like, and this kind of goes to show you to where the professionals are so indoctrinated into a certain belief system. They know chemotherapy is toxic for the body. They know it causes cancer. They know but yet if you talk to them, well, it's the best we have right now. Or they'll say that, no, well, the studies prove that it's higher. And, it blows my mind that more doctors don't acknowledge, one, the conflict of interest. The fact that the overwhelming majority of major medical journal studies are funded by drug companies, which is like, I mean, it's like the fox running the hen house is what it is.
Yes.
And to believe and to try to even say that this Glaxo, Pfizer, Merck-funded research is anything but reliable, given this massive history that these drug companies have of lawsuits and putting profits before people, is absolute lunacy. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And any of you out there that have had this happen to you or your family, and you want to do something about it, you think you can't, I'm just learning this stuff about universal or international laws, contract laws, sovereign laws. Little things I've been hearing is like, sue the judge, not the court, because then they have their own lawyers. Sue the judge that did it as a human being, and the cops, the oncologists, pretty much anybody that ruins your life or murdered your child. Sue them personally. That's the best I can come up with now. I'm going to Dr. Coldwell's seminar, I think, in December to learn more about this stuff. But I'm just trying to give people a way to fight back, because, yeah, you're right. I can't believe this is America either. It sounds like Germany back in the day, or Russia. It's like they're freer than us now, it seems like,
Yeah, I'm blown away, and especially as the years go by. I mean, there's a lot of changes happening, and I mean, it's been expedited, so we really need to get on the ball. And I think that, again, kind of why I love like social media in my alter ego life per se, is because it does allow you to connect and reach the masses very, very quickly if you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you can take a message that resonates and get it spread virally to a lot of different people in a short amount of time with a very, a small shoestring budget. And that's where, people need to hear that, because unfortunately to rely on major media outlets like television or radio, I mean, even if you had the big dollars to spend on there, there's a pretty good chance you probably wouldn't get that much airtime, just because it's such a, it's such a monopoly. You know what I mean? So you really have to take matters into your own hands. And I mean, I think you're doing all the great things, and I really enjoy the fact that you're featuring these leaders, these doctors that are treating and curing cancer. I mean, they're just, it's amazing. Did you hear about Dr. Brzezinski in Texas? Have you interviewed him or no?
No, I haven't yet, but I know all about him, and I've not quite made it. I can't, like I say, I got to shoot whatever's within Los Angeles limits until I get an investment or something, but I would love to, yeah, because Brzezinski, if anybody hasn't seen that film, please go see Dr. Brzezinski. I think it's called The Movie or something, right?
He, I don't recall it. Well, actually, was his Cut, Poison, Burn? Was that his?
No, that was actually my friend Louis. Louis made that. That's another amazing film. If you haven't seen that, you have to see that. Cut, Poison, Burn. It'll just disgust you with what's going on, and hopefully make you do either what I do or somehow get involved. You know, because it's just it. Cut, Poison, Burn. And the first 20 minutes of Dr. Brzezinski will blow your mind. There's a sheriff that gets on there, and he tells the whole story. He had twin daughters, beautiful blonde little girls, and there was only one left because the one died of cancer. But she didn't die of cancer. She died of the treatment. Dr. Brzezinski cured her brain cancer with his antioplastins, and she still died because of the original treatments.
Yeah, you know, it's again, cancer's been cured several times throughout history. There's another great documentary called The Forbidden Cures. You can go on YouTube and watch the whole documentary, and it does go into the history, kind of what I was referring to in Chapter 2. It goes into very detailed accounts of several different practitioners that have cured cancer and that have been really pushed out by the AMA medical monopoly, or medical drug cartel, as I like to refer to them as. Yeah. And I mean, it'll blow your mind. So you got to understand the history and why things are the way they are. Yes, there is a conspiracy. No, there's no theory. There is a big business that, you know, is profiting off of, you know, sick people every single day. And the average cancer patient is worth over $200,000 to a hospital as they walk through the door. So this is a very big business, as opposed to, you know, somebody going and, let's say, getting treatment at Dr. Brzezinski's clinic for, I mean, a 20th of that. I mean, so we're talking like much less expensive to actually get competent treatment that actually cures cancer and, you know, enables you to live an optimal and healthy life. So there's a lot of money on the table, and that's why, you know, something needs to be done, and you just have to get mad as hell and, you know, just say to yourself, I'm not going to take it anymore. And, you know, when I see little children dying needlessly, I mean, it enrages me so much, and that really fuels my passion. It makes me stronger and makes me commit to this mission even more so.
Oh yeah, man, I hear you, bro. I had that little Selena in my arms one day, you know, and I could have just booked and brought her somewhere and took care of her, and she'd be, you know, have her arm and everything. But then I wouldn't be able to help anybody else. So it was a hard decision to make at that moment, because I had it in my head. I was like, he wouldn't care. I'd tell him everything would be cool. I'll bring him back in a few months. But I just couldn't go there. I couldn't go there. Anyway, so, well, let's see. What else? What can we talk about? Let's get a little bit brighter here. I'm getting too angry. I'm going to have to hang a heavy bag up behind me and start punching it when I do my shows. I knew I wanted to say something. Oh, yeah. The cleansing we were talking about. This, and you're saying, like, what I understand, if the body was in its normal state, well, it would never gotten sick. But if you get it back to the normal state, then it will cure itself. What are some of your things you like to do as far as cleansing? Because a lot of my friends out there are just thinking, oh, cannabis, hemp oil, that's it, that's all I need. And I say, I hate to say this, but it's kind of true, because Rick Simpson told me, he said, most people take the oil and that's it, and they lose their cancers. But I say, don't take any chances. Get on the alkaline diet, get your pH up, detox, do coffee enemas. You know, let's play with that a little bit. What do you like? What would you suggest for somebody that wanted to start either preventing cancer or curing cancer?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain health principles that are universal, that have been around, that will always be around. You know, I mean, I believe there are, I believe there are, you know, 10 or so principles that are really true. You know, one is having a strong spiritual connection, whatever that is for you. I think that you have to be connected and grounded in some way, shape, or fashion. Be grateful and to appreciate, you know, all in life. You know, I think that's very important. I think you have to obviously have a positive mental attitude, because that's been proven to affect your biochemistry, you know, when experiencing emotions like love, gratitude, or, you know, just laughing a lot, optimism. I get passionate about a lot of these subjects, but I try not to dwell on the negative side so much, as opposed to, you know, being in the moment, you know, loving my family and friends, and really serving people from a position of love. So again, your mental state is extremely important. Obviously, nourishment, nutrition, organic living foods, and, you know, correcting any nutritional deficiencies. I mean, that's like the lifeblood of beating cancer as well. Obviously, freedom from emotional toxicity. You know, if you got people in your life that are just emotionally bad for you, you need to make a decision, and to, you know, I don't care if they're family or close friends, but you got to do what's best for your own health. and that just wears and wears, especially if you have negative relationships in your life. So again, you got to have your positive emotional influencers as well. Obviously, we need water, clean water, and you'd be surprised on just how hard it is to find good, clean water nowadays. I like to opt for spring water more so than anything because it at least goes through the ground. But, again, know where you actually get your water from. I don't drink tap water. Now they're finding prescription drug residues. They're actually acknowledging that now. I remember an instructor, I think it was like 12 years ago, talking about he had a friend that worked at the local water treatment facility, and he said, hey, we're finding Prozac residues in the public water treatment. We have no way of filtering this stuff. Freaking antidepressants in your water.
I know. What? One of my girl's friends was a nurse, and she said that's what they did. If they ever spilled the medicine, they just put it right in the toilet. So, I mean, think about how many hospitals and how many spills. So we're talking millions and billions of pills every year being thrown down the drain. Of course it's going to go in there.
Well, for example, even when people urinate, I mean, it just doesn't break down accordingly, and they have no way to filter it. I mean, there's a lot of ways that it gets in there, but it's nuts. So, I mean, aside from all the crap, fluoride and toxic chemicals, you're getting an extra dose of prescription meds if you don't have clean water. Sunlight is really important. You've got all this major media campaign that says the sun is bad for you. And hey, everything in excess could be, of course, bad for you, but the sun is essential for life. When the sun hits your skin, it produces vitamin D. Vitamin D is quite possibly the most important vitamin for immune system function. I mean, it's extremely important. It helps to boost your immune system, helps you absorb calcium and a lot of other minerals. And a lot of people are running around vitamin D deficient and they don't even know it. So don't be afraid of the sun. You need it. It's essential for life. I talked a little bit before about oxygen. You need clean air to breathe. If you live in, let's say, Atlanta, Los Angeles, you might be a little bit hard-pressed to find clean air at times. So you got to get out away and really focus on deep belly breathing. Try to get some fresh air because that's an essential factor of maintaining a healthy life. Physical activity, you need exercise. I mean, there's no getting around that. I deal with people all the time. Yeah, I mean, they have, we'll put them on these nutritional detox diets. They lose a lot of weight. They're much, much healthier, but you need physical activity. We are made to be active, and it produces and secretes a lot of chemicals and hormones in your body that make you healthier. Sleep, rest is another one. You should be getting 8 hours of sleep every single night. That's when your body rests and repairs itself. If you're not getting adequate sleep, you're not going to be 100% healthy. There's no way. It's impossible. Sleep is essential. You don't want to shortcut that if possible. And then, I kind of wrap it up in terms of the health principles by talking about fasting, because I believe that fasting is a really key area to detox, get a lot of junk out of your body that doesn't need to be there. You find in the wild animals instinctively fast when they're sick or just when they're not feeling too well. But if you look back thousands of years in different civilizations, many do have fasting practices. But what I'm referring to is more so either a water fast, just water for several days. You can kind of mix that up. Sometimes I'll actually go on like a water perfect food fast. Perfect food is just an organic alkaline supplement. It's just an all green food supplement. So if you have an organic whole food green supplement that tastes like grass, you can just mix that with water and literally alkalinize your body for 3 or 4 days just doing that alone. And I've done it for a week before. But it's a great way just to clear your body out, give digestion a break, give all your internal organs a break, and you find that your senses, your sense of sight, your sense of smell, they're all heightened after you break your fast. I mean, it's great, and there's a lot of research to support it. And as I mentioned before, you want to pick up a book by Herbert Shelton called "Fasting Can Save Your Life." It's so powerful, amazing book. But in my opinion, I would say those are probably the 10 principles, of health. And there are certain, I would call them nutritional components or oils, like we were talking about earlier, that can accelerate this process. But I firmly believe, you got to address all these areas if you truly want to be healthy.
Absolutely, yeah. I just finally did a juice fast myself, blend fast. So I guess it wouldn't be a total fast because I kept the fiber in there. But basically, I didn't eat anything but organic or drink organic shakes for 2 months and dropped 30 pounds. Gosh,
how did you feel?
Shredded. I feel amazing, unbelievable. And the craziest thing happened. I'm going to say it on air because I said it on Facebook. The first time from my life last night, I spoke telepathically to my friend, and he frickin' heard me. I know you don't,
Really?
most people probably won't even believe me, and I didn't believe it. because I've kind of done it before, but I just said nah. So, but I got pissed off this time. I said, "Can you fucking hear me?" And he said, "Yeah," out loud. I said, "Can you fucking hear me?" in my head. He said, "Yeah," out loud. I couldn't after because he was already talking to me out loud when I was talking in here. I couldn't believe it. I pardon me for my French there, ladies and gentlemen. I got a little carried away, but I mean, this has never happened to me before. So, but then he didn't really want to talk about it. But I've been talking to a lot of people like that around here, down in Mexico. Been healers, like healers of the light. They believe in God, Jesus, all that, and they know how to work the light. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just something I'm getting into, and I wonder if, because Rick Simpson told me when you take the cannabis hemp oil, it cleanses your pineal gland. You know, your pineal gland, and that's your third eye. That's your connection to what's really going on, you know? So anyway, just throw that out there, folks. And I hear because we are in the age of Aquarius now, that is going to keep happening. Our planet is going to get more light, become more awake. And that's why I'm not too worried about the 1%. I think they're just going to disappear. I think there's going to be trials for them and all that, but whatever. Hopefully in my lifetime, the earth will be the way it's supposed to be. Anyway, exactly. So that was fun. Can't believe I just admitted that on air. Or you're gonna think I'm nuts.
The truth is, when you really clean your body out, I mean, there's so much capability and potential that we possess that I think we only tap into a fraction of. And I never, you know, I've always been of the mindset just because I don't understand it doesn't make it impossible. I mean, it's like, you know, whoever thought 100 years ago they were going to fold up a piece of metal and just throw it across the ocean? I mean, we have airplanes. It's like the thoughts are already there. The stuff's already there. It's just we have to kind of get to that level of consciousness where we can kind of tap into that. You make sense?
Yeah. And that may help other people too. The artists, musicians, actors. I mean, we tap into that all the time. It's your subconscious, your superconscious, whatever. Well, I guess what I learned is the superconscious is kind of like God. Subconscious is the stuff around here, and then our conscious is our inner. And then an uninterpreted dream is like an unopened letter from God. I always like that one too.
I love that.
Yeah. Let's see, what else do we got to talk about? We talked a little about the nutrition, the supplements, the green, doing the fasting is amazing. Everybody should try that, the juicing. How long can you do the fast for, though, without doing fats and proteins and stuff, you think? I guess, can people do it a couple weeks, or what do you say, a week?
The most important part is to realize, one, you know, you can go months without food. You can. You can only go a few days without water. So you gotta stay hydrated. That's the big portion. You know, you gotta keep enough water in your system. You know, I've done water fasts for 7 days. I know people that have done water fasts for, you know, over a month. I mean, I think that's a little extreme for a water fast, but they've done it before. I would say if you're just starting out and you want to try to get into a fast, you can do a juice fast to kind of get your body prepped. And I do recommend keeping maybe a third of the pulp in there just to give you that fiber to help you digest it. That's totally cool. You know, do that for maybe a day, see how you feel. You should be perfectly fine. It's just the hardest part of a fast is not eating. It's breaking the habit of actually reaching for food, because food is such a social occasion in America. I mean, if you think about it, when you're with friends all the time or doing whatever, even when you're not hungry, you're probably snacking on something half the time. So it's just a habit. And I find that, well, I've never been a smoker. I've never been addicted to any serious drugs, but I would contend that not eating is probably the hardest addiction to break, or eating is the hardest addiction to break. You know what I mean? Just like abstaining from food. And it really gives you a sense of empowerment as well, because if you can fast, I mean, the only other thing that I can equate that to is my skydiving experience when I jumped out of a plane. You know, if I can do this, I can go ahead and talk to this beautiful woman who's now my wife. You know what I mean? It's like you compare this to many instances in your life, which can make it seem a little bit easier. So fasting is a challenge at first, but you know, start off slow. Juice fasting is the way to start off, 1 to 2 days. You can go easily 5 days on a juice fast. It's just breaking over that initial barrier. You're probably going to be hungry for the first day or so. That's fully normal. Now, depending on how big you are, you have to realize that I like to equate it to a bear that goes into hibernate. I work with a lot of patients that are just, I mean, they're fat. They're big people, and they haven't taken care of themselves. And I say, hey, listen, the great news is that your body's going to convert a lot of this fat back into sugar to feed your brain and to keep you going. You might be hungry for the first day, but after that, I mean, you're fine. One of my better friends, he used to be over 300 pounds. I fasted him a week on just water, and he was fine. He didn't get hungry at all. And then we broke him on raw fruits and vegetables afterward. I mean, like, he had eczema and a bunch of all these problem conditions, and even one autoimmune condition that totally cleared up after this fast because the gut was able to heal itself. And the gut, in my personal opinion, and based on the research and a lot of what I read, that is one of the keys, if not the major key to a healthy body. You've got to be able to digest, and not just digest, but absorb things in your body, and then be able to assimilate into the cells to get, you know, optimal uptake of nutrition.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, the fasting for, if anybody wants to see the fast I did, you can go to YouTube and just search Ian Jacklin Blend Fast Instructions. And I put a new one up too. The audio's a little better on the new one, so I'd choose that one. But it's real simple. You just go to local, you go to your store, wherever they have organic, and get all the cruciferous vegetables, the kale, the broccolis, the dark lettuces. Put them in there. If you have cancer, stay away from the fruits. I would until your pH is up above 7. And you just mix it with water, maybe some stevia, and a green apple is okay because there's not as much sugar, and that'll help you. If you don't have cancer, which I now know I don't, I was kind of freaking out there, man. I didn't really tell anybody, but my pH was low for a while. I got it up, but still, I just wasn't feeling, I was worried, you know. And so I went, and I'm down here in Tijuana filming a clinic for my film, and luckily, you know, for $67, I went and got everything checked out. And I'm totally cancer-free. My pH is good, so I'm happy. And but that's what. Go ahead.
No, nice. That's awesome.
Oh, okay, right. So, I forget where I was going with that one. I think I got too excited knowing. I'll never forget that feeling because it's kind of heavy walking around helping everybody else with their cancer. And I was a bad boy when I was younger. I did drink. I did smoke. I did, you know, everything. After I fought and won championships, trust me, we partied hard too. So you know, who knows what's. But turns out it all came out good. So that one's out of the way.
Yeah,
it's good
you know,
because
like I said, it's important to realize, regardless of where you are and even what we've done in, you know, younger periods, our body is always capable of regeneration, you know, and healing itself. And I don't care how old you are. Now, there is a certain window of opportunity for each and every condition and disease, and if you go past that window, you start to develop permanent damage. So ideally, to reverse early on is the ideal scenario. But even, you know, even in the later stages of cancer or diseases where you actually have scar tissue built up in the system, the human body is an amazing, amazing structure. And I think that, you know, we've been just convinced that we need outside intervention to optimize our health, when that's really not the case at all. You know, we don't need to go to the doctor every couple of months. We don't need to take these pills that actually almost, was it Voltaire that said, something along the lines of medical doctors amuse the disease while nature cures it. They amuse the disease with medication while nature cures it. It was something along those lines. I think it was Voltaire. But really? It just kind of goes along with the point. You know, it's like your body is going to heal itself. You just got to give it and put it in those optimal conditions to let it. You talked about the clinics in Mexico. There's some really good ones down there. I even reference you know, a couple in my book. And unfortunately, it's hard to get good clinics here just because of the laws as they are. But I know you're affiliated. Are you affiliated with Cancer Control Society?
I'm their friends. I mean, I've gone to every one of them for the last probably 10 years.
So you speak there.
Yeah.
So you can find a lot of good information and resources through these practitioners. But the bottom line is, even for people listening to this call, there are options. You know, cancer is not a death sentence by any means. It's just, you know, we kind of have to open the blinders a little bit and look beyond that paradigm that we've been conditioned to believe. And like I said, I've seen cancer reversed way too many times to allow some skeptic or some arrogant doctor to tell me otherwise. And you know, if you or your family or loved one or child or whoever has it, I mean, it's time to do your due diligence and make the good decision and realize that there are certain foundational principles to health and healing, and it's not as complex as we've all been made to believe. And you know, the newest thing, it seems like over the last, I would say, 10 years is the medical profession seems to be putting so much weight on genes nowadays. And while genes are important, I mean, if you look at I would say a real objective source might say 5 to 7% could be genetic. and the rest of that can be overcome with, quote, epigenetics, the ability of your body DNA to adapt and to, again, heal itself, right? We have time-tested principles that work. So just make sure you're well-informed when you go to the doctor or you get second opinions and you start to really research and do the homework on your own, because it's just horrible to watch and hear about stories where lives are lost needlessly to this medical system.
Yeah, and just it's on the top of my head. So cancertutor.com, folks, cancertutor.com. My good friend Webster Kerr runs that site. Probably one of the best websites on the net for information. And he addresses the fact that some cancers, you got to do other things to save your life first. You can't just go and try and cure the cancer. You got to. So he'll explain that to you. If you have a fast-growing cancer, there's ways of keeping yourself alive long enough so that the other alternative things can actually get up the cancer too. So quick note there. And this flew. We only got a few minutes left. I wanted to see, what are you doing now? Like, tell us a little bit about how you can help people out there. Any of my friends that are holistic people, you're helping them with their businesses now. And I believe in this because, unfortunately, ass, gas, or grass, you got to pay. Now, unfortunately, if you're getting Western medicine, it's probably free if you happen to have medical, but I wouldn't be doing that myself personally. And you do have to pay, but the healers should get paid because they're saving your butt. So how do you help them maybe not be starving all the time and keeping a roof over their head?
Well, it's really like talking about earlier how I got into when I realized that marketing, influence, communication were extremely important in terms of understanding how I was deceived in terms of what I believe for the first 20-something years of my life. And I started to realize, there are a lot of doctors, professionals, alternative practitioners out there that have a very strong message of health. And I'm using the medical profession, but these principles can be applied to whatever your business you're in. If you're, again, filmmaker, actor, whatever, it's like, you have a message that needs to be heard. And there's a certain way to get people to build an audience, to get them into your tribe so they know, like, and trust you, so you're able to deliver value, they can connect, and you can build relationships with them, and they can eventually buy your stuff so they can transform their lives. You could have the best, this iCure Cancer, it's a fantastic DVD, but it's like, if that can't get out to the masses, you know what I mean? It's quote, a great product because it helps people live healthier lives and saves them from this medical system. But if it doesn't get into enough, hands, it's like, you have a product and service that what good is it if it can't get into the right people's hands? So my main mission is to really help doctors and people that have a strong message of empowerment to get that message into the hands of their community. So one, to build a community, whether it's thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions, or what have you, and to understand how to effectively communicate to that community so they can get to know, like, and trust you. You become the expert in your eyes. You understand how to bring other people in that deliver value into their lives. And then, making a good income is kind of the byproduct of all that stuff. If you have all these pillars lined up, if you understand, if you're clear on your purpose, I should say, clear on why you want to help people and why you do what you do, if your mission is very strong, if you have that why behind you, if you have the tools and resources, if you take action, you can achieve that. And so I basically show these doctors and professionals how to do that, how to build their practices and their businesses and really make a difference in people's lives. You can learn more about that at my blog. You can just go to matthewloop.com. That's MATTHEWLOOP.com. And when you go to the blog, you're probably going to see a lot for entrepreneurs, but realize that all this stuff that you can use, whether it's the Facebook communication, the Facebook marketing, the Twitter, you can use it and apply it to increase your communication, to get more people to hear about your message, so you're able to influence them and transform their lives. Marketing and sales are really not a dirty word. It's how you approach that. If you really believe in what you have, if you believe that your product or service or your message of health is going to transform someone's life, it's your obligation to get it in their hands. And there are ways that you can do that to ethically influence people to take the action that's best for them, as opposed to what we've seen so many times on television, like Big Pharma does, as they unethically manipulate the public into buying this toxic sludge crap. So again, it's kind of a similar mission as the health and wellness to empower people to live better lives. I've just taken that into communication and marketing because that's an integral component that many people doctors and professionals, they completely forget about, but it's essential to be able to build your message, get it out to the right people, and transform lives.
Absolutely. Right on. Matthew Loop, man, I really appreciate being on the show. Before we take off, I just want to say, go to my Facebook page, folks. I just posted it. My friend Lily, she's a mother of 5 fighting cancer, Indiegogo site. If you could donate a few bucks, appreciate it. I'm actually going to be doing a calendar that will show you this. I figured I got in shape, whatever calendar and whatever anybody can, help her family, because her son's taking care of her husband, and like 3 kids. It's unbelievable what's going on. So if you could donate to that, I greatly appreciate it. They need help. And Matthew, man, honor and respect as always, brother.
Ian, I'm very proud to call you a friend, man. You're a true health warrior, and I look forward to connecting in person.
Right on. Okay. Thanks, everybody. This has been iCureCancer.com. Peace.
Right here, right now.